4 true disturbing gaming horror stories. Story 1. The Cursed Game Cartridge. Alex was a retro gaming enthusiast who loved collecting old video games. One day, he stumbled upon a rare game cartridge at a flea market. The seller, an old man with a sinister grin, warned him that the game was cursed. Alex laughed it off, thinking it was just a ploy to make the game seem more intriguing. He bought it and took it home, eager to play. As soon as he inserted the cartridge into his console, strange things started happening. The screen flickered, and eerie music played, unlike anything he had heard before. The game seemed to be a standard platformer, but the levels were unsettling, filled with distorted graphics and haunting imagery. The protagonist, a small character named Max, moved through dark, eerie landscapes that seemed almost too realistic. Alex couldn't put the game down, even though it made him feel uneasy. As he progressed, the game began to address him directly. Text messages appeared on the screen saying things like, "I know where you are and you can't escape." He tried to turn off the console, but it wouldn't respond. Panic set in as he realized he was trapped in the game. The final level was the most disturbing. Max had to navigate a maze that resembled Alex's own house. The game's music became a low, menacing hum, and the screen flashed with images of Alex's room. Suddenly, Max encountered a shadowy figure that began to chase him. The figure moved in a way that felt eerily familiar. Alex's heart raced as the shadowy figure caught up to Max. The screen went black, and a message appears. "You're next." At that moment, Alex felt a cold hand on his shoulder. He turned around, but no one was there. The console finally turned off, but Alex was left shaken and terrified. He decided to destroy the cartridge the next day, but the fear of the game's curse stayed with him. Alex never played retro games again, haunted by the memory of the cursed cartridge and the sinister figure that seemed to cross the boundary between the virtual world and reality. Story 2. The Haunted Virtual Reality Game. Emma was excited to try out her new virtual reality VR headset. She had bought it to escape from the stress of daily life and dive into immersive gaming experiences. One night, she downloaded a highly recommended horror game called Nightmare Realm. Little did she know, this game would blur the lines between reality and nightmare. As soon as she put on the headset and started the game, Emma found herself in a dark, abandoned mansion. The graphics were incredibly realistic, and she could hear every creak of the wooden floors and whisper of the wind, explore the mansion and uncover its secrets. But as she moved through the rooms, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The game's AI seemed too intelligent. Doors slammed shut behind her, and she could feel cold drafts on her skin. Emma's character encountered ghostly apparitions that seemed to reach out for her. She reminded herself that it was just a game, but it felt disturbingly real. As she reached the attic, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The room was filled with old furniture covered in sheets, and a single dim light bulb swung from the ceiling. Suddenly, a shadowy figure appeared in the corner of her vision. Emma's heart raced as she turned to face it, but it disappeared. The game's final challenge was to confront the ghost haunting the mansion. Emma's character moved toward a mirror, and she saw her reflection. But it wasn't her face staring back. It was the twisted, horrifying visage of the mansion's ghost. The ghost began to speak in a voice that echoed in her ears, telling her that she was now part of the game. Emma tried to remove the headset, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as she felt a cold hand grip her wrist. She struggled, finally ripping the headset off, but the room around her was still the dark, haunted mansion. The line between the game and reality had been erased. She eventually escaped the nightmare by throwing the VR headset out of the window. Emma was left traumatized, unable to shake the feeling that the ghost was still watching her. She never touched VR again, fearing that another game might trap her in its terrifying world. Reference to Grancy Ears, the ghost in the arcade. John loved spending his weekends at the local arcade. It was a nostalgic haven filled with classic games. One evening, he discovered an old unmarked cabinet in a dark corner of the arcade. The game had no title, just a black screen with a single flashing word. Curious, John inserted a coin and began playing. The game was simple yet eerie. It involved guiding a character through a maze while avoiding ghostly figures. The graphics were crude, but the game had an unsettling quality. The ghosts moved unpredictably, and the maze seemed to change each time he played. As John progressed, he noticed that the game started to feel more personal. Messages appeared on the screen, addressing him by name and revealing details about his life that it couldn't possibly know. "Remember the red bicycle?" one message read. John's heart skipped a beat. He had owned a red bicycle as a child. The game's difficulty increased, and the ghosts became more aggressive. John felt a chill run down his spine as he realized that the ghosts looked like people he knew, friends and family members who had passed away. One ghost looked exactly like his late grandmother, who used to take him to the arcade when he was a kid. Determined to reach the end, John kept playing. The final level was the most terrifying. The maze was now a labyrinth of dark corridors, and the ghosts moved faster. One message read, "She's waiting for you." John's hands trembled as he guided his character toward the exit. So when he finally reached the end, the screen went black. A final message appeared, "You're next." The arcade's lights flickered, and John felt a presence behind him. He turned around, expecting to see someone, but the arcade was empty. Shaken, John left the arcade, vowing never to return. That night, he couldn't sleep, haunted by the faces of the ghosts in the game. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were real, and that the game had somehow connected him to the spirits of the dead. The unmarked cabinet was gone the next day, leaving John to wonder if it had ever been there at all. Story 4. The Multiplayer Nightmare. Liam was a fan of online multiplayer games, enjoying the thrill of competition and teamwork. One evening, he received an invitation to join a beta test for a new horror-themed game called Night Stalkers. The game promised an immersive experience with advanced AI and realistic graphics. Intrigued, Liam accepted the invite and logged in. The game started with a group of players exploring an abandoned town at night, trying to survive against supernatural creatures. Liam joined a team of strangers communicating through headsets. The game was intense, with the AI creatures hunting them relentless. The graphics were incredibly lifelike, making the experience even more terrifying. As the game progressed, Liam noticed something odd. The AI creatures seemed to target him specifically, whispering his name and taunting him. His teammates joked that the game was just messing with him, but Liam couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than that. During one particularly intense session, Liam's character was separated from the group. He found himself in a dark, decrepit house. The whispers grew louder, and he could hear footsteps behind him. When he turned around, there was nothing there. His teammates tried to guide him back, but their voices were drowned out by the game's eerie sound. Liam's screen suddenly glitched, and his character was transported to a different part of the map, a place he hadn't seen before. It was a graveyard shrouded in fog. The whispers turned into screams, and the creatures appeared, surrounding him. Liam's heart raced as he tried to fight them off, but his controls wouldn't respond. The creatures closed in, and the screen went black. A message appeared, "You can't escape." The game crashed, and Liam was kicked out to the main menu. When he tried to log back in, he received a message saying that his account had been banned for unauthorized access. Confused and frustrated, Liam contacted the game's support team. They had no record of his participation in the beta test and claimed that Night Stalkers was still in early development, with no public testing phase. Liam realized that he had been playing something else entirely. Haunted by the experience, he deleted the game and swore off horror-themed multiplayer games. The whispers and screams from that night still echoed in his mind, a chilling reminder that some games are more than just entertainment. They're a doorway to something darker.